Get some more context rather on this issue. We're joined by Azeem Ibrahim. He's a research professor at the U.S. Army War College Strategic Studies Institute. He's also the author of the Rohingyas Inside Myanmar's Hidden Genocide. Well, the UN Secretary General said this about the current state. It's the world's fastest developing refugee emergency, a humanitarian and human rights nightmare. He says the violence could spill from the northern part of Rakhine State to central Rakhine. There's the potential another 250,000 could be targeted. Is he right about that? Give us your assessment. You've been in the area, you know it.
Well, so far over the last few weeks, we have literally seen 502,000 people being forcibly displaced, ethnically cleansed from Myanmar. And out of those 500,000, 260,000 are children. You're talking almost about a third of the entire Rohingya population. So in the current trajectory, it is quite possible that before the end of the year, we'll see the entire Rohingya population being ethnically cleansed from Myanmar. So this is obviously of deep concern, not just to the United Nations, but in terms of the entire region, that such a humanitarian crisis can unfold of such historic proportions.
You've said in the past that one day we're going to wake up to the situation on the scale of what we saw with Rwanda in 1994. Are we there yet? Are we getting close? And what needs to happen?
Well, the situation is obviously extremely dire. We have, literally ethnic cleansing on an industrial scale going on. I think what needs to happen right now is for the United Nations to commission a full-scale humanitarian commission inquiry into what's actually going on. The UN actually passed a resolution in March of 2017 for such an inquiry, but they refused entry by Aung San Suu Kyi herself, who's actually the foreign minister who holds a portfolio of the foreign minister of Myanmar. She said that this would not be helpful, and she refused to give visas to those UN investigators. UN has now also once again called for another inquiry, and this morning again the Myanmar authorities said that they will not permit the UN into the country. So I think there has to be some sort of penalty and some sort of sanctions on Myanmar if they're not going to cooperate with the international community in this way.
Azeem, you've been to the refugee camps in Bangladesh. What would you want our viewers to know? What have you seen?
The conditions that the refugees live in are completely inhumane. Bangladesh is a very poor country itself. They are struggling to feed their own population. It's highly overpopulated itself. And for them to actually absorb those kinds of numbers is simply not possible. People that have actually escaped the violence in Myanmar are now living in subhuman conditions, and they are dying from diarrhea, cholera and disease, and even starvation itself, because the UN is unable to scale up the operations on the scale that's required.
Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel, or are things going to get worse?
I think things will probably get worse because there's simply not enough pressure on the government of Myanmar to reverse its policies. Aung San Suu Kyi gave a speech over a week ago saying that all military operations had actually stopped, the clearing operations as she referred to. But even today, we can see the houses and villages burning from the Bangladesh border. Even Human Rights Watch has obtained satellite imagery that shows entire villages being burnt to the ground. And today I was reading reports of how even villages that had been burnt down, the security forces and the vigilante mobs are going back to the same villages to ensure that they're completely burnt and reburning the houses that were spared. So this is a systematic and organized campaign of ethnic cleansing being orchestrated by the Myanmar authorities.
Azeem Ibrahim joining us from Chicago. Thanks so much.